away there. Shepherdsville at 11:56. So as we start to get closer to the noon hour, it pushes near Interstate 65 and then off to the east from there. Good news is no tornado warnings in effect. There is a tornado watch, though. That information's crawling at the top of your screen. Also want to put in a track on the southern edge of this line as it pushes east of Elizabethtown. It's right around Younger Creek, Roanoke now, but Lebanon Junction, Jericho at 11:49, Belmont at 11:51, Atherton there into portions of LaRue County at 11:53. So we'll continue to keep you updated on this line as well as down towards the south, too. Portions of Greene, Adair County, stronger cell moving in your direction as well. That's a leftover from what was a tornado-warned storm back over towards Christian County and Hopkinsville earlier this morning. So within this line, some embedded strong to severe storms. We'll continue to crawl that information at the top of your screen. And again, myself and Chief Meteorologist Jay Cardosi here in the Weather Center to keep you advised of this line. And we're watching that one that comes later on this evening behind it. And we'll have all the latest, too, on our newscast at 6. Watching and listening in, let's say, Crestwood, Pee Wee Valley, portions of Oldham County, Charlestown, and even Shelby County further on off to the east, as well as down towards Mount Washington and portions of Spencer County. This line does mean business. It has had a history of producing down trees and power lines into portions of Elizabethtown and also down into LaRue County, where the Hodgenville PD has been reporting down power lines and trees county-wide. So we want to use a lot of extra caution with this line moving on through. And again, take shelter from near downtown, the I-65 corridor, and points on off towards the east into the metro. Also paying attention to that line closer to you in Bardstown and into northern portions of Nelson County, and also north of town through Floyd, Clark County. Some strong wind gusts there as well. And this line continues to persist even farther to the north into portions of Washington County down around Salem and Pekin, Indiana. We're crawling all the information at the top of your screen, but with winds that could gust 60 to 70 miles per hour. This line is fierce and means business too. Might even find some embedded hailstones in some of the stronger cores, as well as the lightning strikes. So be aware of that as well. Again, a lot of outdoor activities this weekend, I know, but you don't want to be outside with rumbles of thunder out across the area. But what we are looking at right now is the wind velocity and how fast that's going, and you can check it out on our WLKY tower camera. We're starting to get some swaying of the trees there. Not everywhere along that line is going to have the strongest of the wind gusts. When severe weather happens, typically it's on an isolated basis embedded within the lines that we've been tracking. But you can see the wet weather, a little bit of a shake to the camera too. This is our Sheridan Hotel cam. We're looking at 31W, and we even lost it a little bit there. We're looking at 31 through Clark County toward the Clark Memorial Bridge. And so you saw things were getting pretty rough out there as well. And this is our tower camera that here's Lynn Family Stadium off into the distance, even tough to see. And really, as the crows flies, that's only about a mile and a half from our studio. So tons of heavy rain out there, some high wind indicated. And if you look closely, there's some yellow embedded within those pink shades. And that is where we're going to get the strongest of the wind gusts with this storm. And you see Chief Meteorologist Jay Cardosi running the radar, 66-mile-per-hour winds, at least indicated by the radar near Clarksville, Jeffersonville, down into downtown Louisville, and points on off to the east. So St. Matthews down towards West Butyl. Heads up Northfield as you move in towards Prospect along the Gene Snyder. Middletown down towards Fern Creek, Glen Mary. These are all areas that are going to see very quickly some very strong wind gusts. And that'll push farther off toward the east with time, even pinging 74 miles per hour within this storm system, as well as the lightning strikes as well. So what's going to happen is as the leading edge of this rain and this line moves through, we're going to deal with a couple of minutes of some really strong wind gusts along the leading edge of that, and then it's going to just start pouring down rain for a little while behind it. But we have track of the highest wind that's right now starting to shift east and northeast. Shelter from this storm at 12:13. It's going to the neighborhoods of Blue Ridge Manor, Briarwood, and Brownsboro Farm. Also look out ahead if you're listening to me in LaGrange, Buckner, towards Brownsboro, even let's say Crestwood, Prospect, down into Shelby County, along Interstate 64 all the way to Shelbyville and points to the north. these high wind gusts are going to be holding together and heading in your direction. The line has, for the most part, with a little bit of fluctuation, maintained its intensity for the last several hours back into western Kentucky, even the boot heel of Missouri earlier this morning. So it's held together with some strong wind gusts and continues to push down towards Taylorsville Lake. Again, going to want to be off the water for this storm as it moves on through. Also, northern portions of Nelson County around Bloomfield, north of Bardstown. Bardstown, you're coming out of some of the heaviest weather with this line, and that also is going to move down towards Springfield, Willisburg in the Washington County area, Marion County as well. Surrounding you in Lebanon, you have quite a bit of thunderstorm activity with this particular line that continues to even inch further into our farthest southern counties of Greene, Taylor, and Adair. So we'll watch out for those embedded thunderstorms and the potential for at least a few strong wind gusts. And look how that arcs back into southern Indiana as well. Also, rain is going to be moving on through, and you see that rain shield goes back. It's going to rain for a solid hour, maybe even two, with what's developing behind it. And then we'll start to turn our attention after a break through about mid to late afternoon. We'll watch for a redevelopment of stronger storms further to our north and west, and that line too will have the potential for severe weather as we head into the evening hours tonight. So our Sunday's a day we're staying weather aware. We're going to continue to keep you updated here in the Weather Center, but you see from Salem to Pekin down towards let's say Sellersburg, Memphis, closing in on you in Henryville and Charlestown, you're going to find a few stronger wind gusts with those, but it's where we see this area of pink and some of the yellow or peach shades that kind of mix in there is where the highest of the radar indicated winds have been with this storm. You see 69 miles per hour near St. Matthews, 71 along 265 there into Jeff into southern Indiana, right along the Easton Bridge and close to the Prospect area. Chief Meteorologist Jay Cardosi has been the one running the radar, tracking this with me here in the WLKY Weather Center. Jay, I'm going to send it on over to you for a bit. What are you seeing in this line and getting any reports out there? Yeah, Matt, as a matter of fact, we are getting several reports now of winds that could be in excess of 60 miles an hour, mainly across the east end right now. A compact, narrow zone of high wind with the heavy rainfall, that heavy rain tapping into those stronger winds aloft and bringing them down towards the ground. So we're getting quite a few reports now of trees being blown over and even some slight structural damage in spots. So this is a line of storms that we have to watch very closely, moving rapidly off to the east. Typically, the faster a storm tracks, you can add that momentum, just how fast it's moving, to the overall chances to produce additional strong wind gust activity. And that's what we're dealing with as well. So we have the strong winds coming down through the atmosphere, and then just the sheer momentum at which the speed of the storms are moving, also kind of adding insult to injury when you're talking about these strong winds blowing across the area. Right now, if you're in West Louisville, west of 65, and then points west from there, as you can see on the radar behind me, we still have some pretty good rain going on, but the threat for severe weather, western portions of the metro, is now pretty much moving away. And if you are east of 65, that is where we have to watch for some pretty intense winds going from Charlestown down to Fern Creek, closing in on you folks in the Taylorsville area. Matt, real quick, what were you talking about there? Hey, Jay, we just got an update from Muhammad Ali International Airport, 62 mile per hour wind gusts. So these are really strong winds coming on through right now across the metro. All right, so there you go. And those strong winds that we just pinged to 62 mile an hour gust at the airport, now on the east end. So basically Prospect down, let's call it, to Pee Wee Valley, Fern Creek, Middletown, down to Glen Mary, now east of Mount Washington. Anybody in that zone having at least the chance to see winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. And there was an update that came in from the National Weather Service not too long ago that they were pinging possibly 80 mile an hour wind gusts in a few isolated locations. So a very powerful thunderstorm that's rolling across portions of the metro. It's a bow echo
It's taking on the shape of a backward C. That is a radar signature for some pretty high winds. It is flying off to the east-northeast, so any one spot won't have these high winds for long, but certainly long enough to potentially produce some damage. And there you go. You can see what Matt is doing here, giving us a storm track now at the higher winds. Those are those brighter pink colors. That's where we're picking up the winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. It's going to carry it through much of Oldham County here within the next 30 minutes. Certainly the rest of the East End near Eastwood, Valhalla Golf Course, perhaps even the Lake Forest region getting into those stronger winds, and then over towards Simpsonville, Shelbyville, Chestnut Grove. That's all in Shelby County. Even though it's not all that bad in your area right now, it will be as these strong winds approach from the west. And you can see additional high winds down near Taylorsville. This is all heading towards Taylorsville Lake. And it's a holiday weekend. A lot of people taking off to their favorite lakes, their lake destinations, perhaps camping out. We've got some strong winds heading across many of these recreational spots. You can see the Willisburg area, 1220, Van Buren, 1222, Harrisonville, 1231, and that's going to carry it on into eastern portions of Washington County, Anderson County, and then that's going to be moving out of the viewing area. So, Matt, this stuff is flying rapidly. I'd say within the next 30 to 60 minutes, we'll be getting out of the woods as far as the severe threat. This severe threat goes, we'll have additional chances for more severe storms late day today, especially on into tonight. Any other wind gusts that you've seen? So, Jay, I'm looking just at the reports from Ali International. Just this kind of goes minute by minute. There's been 3 gusts reported over 60. We've had a 61, 62, 62. So some very strong winds there. Not getting any reports from the metro right now as it is hitting, but we have had anywhere from down trees and power lines around Elizabethtown with power out, also down into LaRue County and Hodgenville. We've had upwards of 60-mile-per-hour wind gust reports and estimates through portions of Grayson and Breckenridge County. So as this line moves on through, and Jay, what we've also been looking at too, you were mentioning the speed. I mean, the worst of it ran through the metro in about 30 to 35 minutes. So it'll likely be out of the WLKY viewing area here in the next half hour altogether. Yeah, as it stands right now, we're zoomed in tight there on the analyzer, and boy, anywhere you see that bright pink, and this encompasses a pretty good chunk of the metro right now. We're talking southern portions of Clark County, now into western Oldham County, from Goshen to River Bluff to Prospect, down to Glen Oaks, and points off to the south and southeast from there. The Ford truck plant, Pee Wee Valley, down towards Middletown. The highest winds now getting away from St. Matthews and moving east of the Waterson, but it's that stretch of the Gene Snyder in east and northeastern Jefferson County, as you can see, covered up by that brighter shade of pink. 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts a possibility. They won't last long, maybe 10, 15 minutes at the longest. They'll shift on through, and then things will be quieting down. But nonetheless, right now, severe potential running pretty high for damaging straight-line wind gusts. Don't see any tornadoes with this, folks. I really don't. This looks to be more of just a straight-line wind gust. On occasion, you can get a little vortice that might try to pop up, especially where there's a very, very high wind gusts locally. That in itself can cause a little bit of a vortice. So far, we haven't seen that. But wind damage is wind damage here. When you're talking winds in excess of 60 miles an hour, that's what we have going on right now. And that's what we see in south and southeastern Clark County, through sections of Oldham County, eastern Jefferson County, the East End, and this is all pushing towards sections of Shelby County as well. You can see the high wind field, my goodness, as I pulled out here, and it continues down through Spencer County, closing in on the Taylorsville Lake area, now east of you folks in Bardstown, but on into the Chaplin area, Bloomfield region, Springfield, and points off to the north to near Mackville, for example. We're getting reports of some
high winds, at least pinging those on the radar scan. You can see that shade of pink running all the way from sections of eastern Jefferson County, southern Clark County, and then arcing back into Washington County in Kentucky. That's where the high wind field is presently located. Let's go over to the Doppler radar. Matt, you've got those warnings flashing on the screen. Dave, if you would, let's go to the links 1. There we go. Matt's going to walk into the key wall there, and we'll talk about the warnings that are in effect now and where this line is headed next.
Yeah, Jay, out of Nelson County, reports of trees down around the Boston area with this line. That's some of the most recent in terms of the damage reports that we have had, and that's what this line, I think, is mainly going to do. We're talking trees, power lines, power outages with this as it rolls on through. Again, winds gusting at Muhammad Ali International, officially 63 miles per hour there. So that is confirmation of severe winds with this line that's rolling on through and now pushing east of the metro. As Jay mentioned, it's flying off to the east and northeast around 50 to 55 miles per hour. So Charlestown, you're starting to get on the back edge of the worst of this storm, but that's going to move up to the north and east. Heads up Madison, Bedford and Trimble County, LaGrange getting probably those high wind gusts right about now. Also Eminence, Newcastle, Shelbyville getting stormier. You're on the leading edge of this storm, this severe thunderstorm that's moving on through. Taylorsville, it's calming down a little bit for you. You're going to start getting onto some of the calmer winds and then just steady rain. But around Taylorsville Lake, off east towards Anderson County, if you're watching us perhaps in Lawrenceburg, down into Washington County, this is still a pretty strong and severe cell. It's the reason why today was a severe alert day, and we're by no means done. This is just the first of what we believe to be 2 rounds of severe weather. The next one coming later this evening. We'll have time to watch that line develop too. Out of the upper Midwest, up around Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. That heads our way later on this evening, especially as we start getting past 8, 9 o'clock. So stay advised and up to date on the weather, even as this line passes on through. We are not done. I want you to look at the wind velocity. Jay's been highlighting within this line, this is where the very strong winds have been. Anywhere you see this lighter shade of pink, and especially inside of there, there's almost a little yellowish tone. That's where we start to get into the strong to severe wind gusts. And remember, this is what the radar indicates. But notice 66 down into Spencer County. Well, we had 63 right at Ali International. So we are seeing ground truth that confirms what the radar is indicating as well. So these aren't just winds that are staying high up into the thunderstorm. These are winds that in many cases are making it down toward the ground and doing damage, again, towards LaRue County, Nelson County. We've had reports of trees and power lines down. There's power outages in the Elizabethtown area and likely into the metro as well with some of these 60+ mile per hour winds that are pushing through. We're going to continue to follow this line as it moves on off toward the east because it has had a significant history of severe weather with the strong wind gusts, perhaps in a few locations too, even in excess of 70 miles per hour, a possibility. If you're living in far eastern and northern Washington County, and I know a few of our viewers, even though it's outside of the viewing area, towards Anderson and Mercer County, if you're watching around Harrodsburg and Lawrenceburg, be on the lookout for this storm because it's going to bring some strong winds into your area as well. Starting to pick up Shelbyville, very much so in the LaGrange area right now, and off towards the east and northeast from there. Jay's drawing on that storm track, and again, it's flying out there around 50 to 55 miles per hour. So if you're watching us in Shelbyville over towards, let's say, LaGrange, Mount Eden, Chestnut Grove right now, you're dealing with the worst of the weather coming your way. Let's see, Hooper, Russell Corner, New Washington, and Oldham, all in the next few minutes as it moves off towards the east and northeast. So if you are in that track, Trimble, Henry, Shelby County, even into portions of Franklin and Anderson County, be on the lookout for this storm as it continues to show opportunities for straight line wind gusts. Now, in terms of rotation with this storm, not non-existent, but nothing that shows any imminent threat of tornadoes. This is mainly straight line winds, as well as thunder, lightning, and some heavy rain. Keep in mind, ground has been saturated after we've had our chances and opportunities for showers and thunderstorms over the past several days. So we could also get into some flash flooding concerns, especially as we move in another round of heavier rain later on tonight with the storms that we'll be watching. As in terms of hail, maybe a little bit between, let's say, Crestwood and Simpsonville, right along the Oldham, or just north of the Oldham-Shelby County line, heads up for the Ballardsville area. And as you head towards, let's see, I think that's East Oldham Middle School in that area as well. So could see a little bit of small hail, also very heavy rain. It's raining at close to 4 or 5 inches per hour. Now, that's not going to hold over your area for that long. It's going to see the most intense rain, but these are some blinding downpours, but it may last for 5 or 10 minutes. Could put down a quick inch of rain in a short period of time. So you definitely want to limit any travel. In fact, postpone it. It's going to be moving quickly, so you really only have to delay things probably 30 minutes or so, and we're going to get this line on through the area. You do see behind it, though, steady pouring, soaking rain goes all the way through the metro to portions of Harrison, Perry County. We do start to see a little bit of a gap of drying, but look what's forming farther out to the west. More rainfall. So I do think we transition into an afternoon that will be very soggy for the next couple of hours. And then once we dry all of this out, that's when we turn our attention farther to the north and west for the next line of storms that moves on in. If there's any good news with the heavy rain and the severe weather right now, is that we will cool the temperatures initially. There were some signs that we might have as many as 3 lines come through today with strong to severe potential. I think we've at least minimized that now to 2, but the first one has been rough. We're looking at our WLKY tower camera. Remember earlier, just a few minutes ago, and the worst of the storm was moving on through, we could hardly see downtown. The winds were whipping around the trees. Now look, much lighter out there, and we have better visibility. So the worst of that weather is pushing out of the metro area, as well as Clark County. There's the approach to the Clark Memorial Bridge, the rail bridge behind that as we look downstream of the Ohio River. And at least in terms of the trees along Ashland Park, they look okay, but again, we've had reports of trees and power lines down with this line all the way back off to the south and west. Now, we put back on the warnings, and it still includes the metro, but notice where the line is. That's into portions of eastern Clark, Oldham, Shelby County. So in the metro, the severe weather threat is now on off toward the east. So that's the good news. But now it's our eastern communities that we continue to watch this line. And Jay is highlighting this area where we have that bow echo, or as we mentioned, the backwards looking C on radar. So you flip around the letter C, that's the bow echo, and it's in the heart of that bow where you will see the highest potential for those strong wind gusts moving on through our eastern counties. So if you're watching in Trimble, especially Henry County, down into Shelby County, that's where we'll have the opportunities for those stronger, higher wind gusts to push their way on down. We've already had 63-mile-per-hour winds in town, so that is severe across the area. Jay, I want to give you an opportunity to take a look at these storms too, and tell us if there's been any reports coming in from them. What are you tracking? Yeah, right now, just tracking the high wind field still, Matt, and it is flying off to the east. Let's go over to the analyzer. I've got it in split mode for you. And Dave, if you would, take that full. There you go. You can see on the right, that's the reflectivity or the high, the heavy rain field that's moving on through. Matt talked about a bow echo. Well, you can see what he's talking about. I'm going to, you can actually see it running from, let's say, Scott County down through northeastern Clark County to LaGrange, and then it bows back off towards the south and southeast, now east of Lebanon. All right, it's taking on that backward C. This is a radar signature for some pretty high winds. We've already seen those. This thing has actually produced high winds as it's been racing across central and eastern portions of the WLKY viewing area. So the rainfall pattern on the right. On the left is the wind pattern. You can see the brighter shades of the pinks.
Even the little orangish yellow showing up, especially on into Anderson County, also eastern portions of Spencer County. That's where we could be looking at winds in excess of 70 miles an hour. And Matt, I've been checking some of the chat rooms and things like that, and getting typical reports of some trees knocked over. But so far, things fairly quiet. What have you seen?
Jay, the latest that I've seen here is coming out. This is from Grayson County Emergency Management. It's a building damage and there are pictures. I know we can't get them to you quite yet, but there is a pull-behind camper, fairly large one, that has been pushed over into the side of what looks to be a 3-car garage, and that has done some damage to the building itself. And I think that highlights that even without tornadoes, even straight line winds can push over large campers, mobile homes. Those are not safe places to be in situations like this. Also, numerous trees and power lines reported down across portions of Grayson County as well. Power lines down in the Jeffersonville and Clarksville area. That's coming from Clark County Emergency Management, as well as trees across the county as well. Even getting some reports, as was down in Logan County, for flooding. But I think that's going to be something that we may see from time to time, especially as we move into tonight with the second round. Is we'll have to turn our attention to the potential for some flash flooding, because as you were highlighting earlier, the rain rates at the leading edge of this line are extreme.
Yeah, we're pinging, what, 7 inch per hour?
Yeah,
rainfall
even for 15 minutes.
So
that's a quick inch or two of rain.
Absolutely. All right, so there is a good chunk of the viewing area showing up on the analyzer, and you can see where the Bow Echo is now located. It's east and northeast of the metro. Watching from the metro area, pretty much out of the woods for now. We're going to get some locally heavy rainfall next hour or so. Beyond that, we're really going to have to see how the atmosphere sets up for round number 2, which is scheduled for late day today, more like into tonight, where the most instability sets up, where we have a little outflow boundary or a little focal point for additional storms. That will dictate where the strongest storms line up for tonight, and we'll be analyzing that over the next couple of hours. But of immediate concern is what's happening in the viewing area right now, and most notably east of the metro, and that is for that intense line of storms that's racing off to the east-northeast, 50 miles per hour or so, and producing damaging wind gusts along its path as well. Right now, highest potential for damaging wind gusts in and close to Crothersville, heading towards Ripley County, but especially as you get south of there, Scott County. We're talking the Scottsburg area right there. We're talking, here's Madison, Hanover, the Ohio River, Jefferson County, Indiana. High winds are pushing in your direction. Then we go a little bit farther south. High winds right now very close to LaGrange and just east of you. That's all heading towards Henry County. So watching from places like Campbellsburg, as well as Newcastle Eminence in Henry County. Be on the lookout. You have some powerful winds pushing in your direction, and those high winds continue farther off to the south, southeast. Matt, this line is already just about clear of Shelby County, pushing into the capital city right now, Franklin County, but this thing's going to be out of our viewing area within the next 15 to 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, very quickly I expect that to be the case, Jay, because you're right. This thing is just flying at 50 to 55 miles per hour as it pushes on off toward the east and northeast. This line is now warned all the way through our eastern communities, places like Carroll, Henry, down towards Franklin, Owen County, Madison, Indiana. Be on the lookout too. Some of those stronger winds could be headed in your direction shortly. Most of the warnings are going to go until, let's see, I'm going to get that latest on the far eastern side there. Looks like until 1:30, and so over the next about 55 minutes, and likely before then, we'll see this line coming to an end for the WLKY region. But again, continuing to see reports of trees and power lines down in the wake of this line. Places like Campbellsville into Taylor County, trees and power lines down. So even it's been a long stretch, this line of damage reports from Clark County all the way down to Taylor County throughout, really up and down the WLKY region with these 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. And you can see the yellow boxes. These are the severe thunderstorm warnings that the National Weather Service continues to highlight, those stronger winds that continue to push out, especially along the leading edge of that rainfall that's pushing on through. Farther back off towards the west, where we just see the deeper shades of green, some embedded yellows, that's just the steadier rain that's going to last for a little while here, and even more lies off to the west. So we're going to have a rainy first half of the afternoon with some embedded rumbles of thunder, but the severe weather threat, at least briefly, is coming down across the area, but it is picking up the farther east you go across the WLKY region in eastern Kentucky. If you have friends and family in Lexington, perhaps they're outdoors, you might want to shoot them a quick text and make sure they know that this storm is coming. And keep in mind, too, for any outdoor plans that you may try to sneak in for the remainder of the day and tonight, have multiple ways to get watches and warnings. We'll be here on air at WLKY and our free WLKY app and WLKY.com. Those are a couple of ways in which you can do so. Also, NOAA weather radios. There's what's called the WEA alerts on your phone. Will also help to keep you at alert, because we could have a very similar line come through a little later on this evening with more watches and warnings across the WLKY region and more potential for severe weather damage across the area. So as we look down towards Adair, Taylor, Marion, Washington County, worst of it now, pushing on off toward the east, as well as the I-65 corridor through Kentucky and back off to the west. Yes, there's still some rain, even some embedded heavier downpours down into Grayson County, but notice we don't have the yellow boxes showing up here. We do have flash flood warnings down towards Hopkinsville. Christian County has been hit quite hard so far today with what was a confirmed tornado earlier on the ground by spotters there. Some of this weather may be on the strong side, but as it pushes on off to the east, it's going to move into the rain-cooled air. So I'm not anticipating a renewed opportunity for strong to severe storms in our southern communities. We'll continue to keep eyes on it for you, but it's going to be mainly some heavy rainmakers with some embedded thunder down towards perhaps, let's just say mainly the parkways, E-Town, maybe a little bit farther to the north up towards Radcliffe and Hardinsburg. So we'll keep close eyes on it for you, especially with what's already saturated ground. We may have some flash flooding concerns with that. We also watch the line as it moves closer to you in Madison, so heads up for perhaps 60 mile per hour wind gusts moving into Jefferson County, Indiana, Milton down to Bedford on US 421. Notice some of those winds are getting a little stronger in this line, where we've had a history of 60+ mile per hour wind gusts with the line, and we're likely still in these shades of lighter pink getting 55 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. Some of the ground truth in portions of, let's say, around LaGrange and Oldham County, back over to Spencer County, has been at least a little lighter in terms of the high wind gusts, but still 40 to 50 going to be a possibility there. And again, sometimes the worst of these storms miss any reporting stations or instruments that are put out across the region. So even within that, you may still get some of these higher wind gusts. Also notice where those shades of pink and yellow, especially along the leading edge of the rain, that's really starting to push farther on off towards the east. So Chief Meteorologist Jay Cardosi continuing to watch these storms. I'm watching it for you. Suzanne was in earlier with your forecast for your Sunday morning. We've got you covered because Daniel will be in later on in the evening as well to keep you updated. But you do see these stronger winds that are going to continue back through now Henry, Trimble, Jefferson County. So it's north and east of the metro that we'll continue to monitor for a line that has had a history of downed trees and power lines with it farther off to the south and west. Even some structural damage that we were getting reports of just north of the Litchfield area into Grayson County. Also reports of 50 to 60 mile per hour winds back through Breckenridge County as well. So we'll continue to follow this. Off to the east, Jay, this has definitely been a line that has packed a punch over the last few minutes as it's moving very, very quickly. You mentioned just the speed alone
can put down the stronger wind gusts, which have recently been upwards of 50 miles per hour.
Yeah, just looking at some of the reports coming in, as you just mentioned, Matt, we had a gust over 50 miles an hour eastern Anderson County. Reports of a little bit of damage in Charlestown to Hibernia, New Washington regions of Clark County. We had some trees and power lines down in several places in Campbellsville. That's in Taylor County, off to the south of the metro by about 60 miles. So anywhere along that line, we've had scattered wind reports, wind damage reports. Here's the big picture now. We're back in time. This was 9:30 this morning, and you can see how that bow came out of western Kentucky. And that thing actually intensified over the past hour, hour and a half. As we got into the early afternoon, a little bit more instability to work with, so those storms tapping into some of that instability, bringing the wind energy down to the ground here in the WLKY viewing area, including the metro. Now you can see the next batch of storms out there in western Kentucky on into northwestern Tennessee. A lot of that activity is pushing east, but it looks like the major storm activity, the major severe threat with that secondary batch, at least this afternoon, will stay immediately south of the metro. And what I'm talking about is that to the west of Nashville. That should cruise towards the Nashville area where there is more heating. Now, Matt talked about this earlier. We are expecting yet another blow up as we move into the early evening hours. The actual cold front, that's expected to happen the farther west we go on into Illinois, western Kentucky again, and that should be moving in a little bit later on this evening. So that'll be yet another threat for some severe weather at that time. All right, here's a look. We're going to kind of reset if you're just joining us. Maybe you were at Sunday services, or we know it's a long holiday weekend, trying to plan some outdoor activities. Tuning in right now, here's the latest. In the metro, the severe threat is done for now, okay? We've got rain, light to moderate rainfall, but no severe thunderstorm activity around the metro right now. It's all off to the east, as you can clearly see, along and east of that thunderstorm band, which is very narrow now, running from Seymour to Madison and Hanover, down towards Bedford and Trimble County, cutting across Henry County, the capital city, and then getting closer and closer to the I-75 corridor. This will be out of the viewing area altogether, likely within the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. Once it clears Henry County and also Jefferson County, as well as Trimble County, off to the east-northeast of the metro, it'll be moving out of the viewing area. We will have to continue to watch more showers and storms, Evansville, but especially off to the south. As you can see, there is some pretty active weather going on with severe thunderstorm warnings, flash flood warnings, and right now we have a tornado warning that is south of Paducah, well away from our viewing area. The trajectory that is on that line of storms should carry it on into northern Tennessee as we shift into the early afternoon. So that batch should miss us, but we'll be watching for regeneration of more storms as we move on into this Sunday evening. So, boy, this holiday weekend, Matt, I mean, yesterday was just fine. Overall, we're thinking tomorrow, much of the day should be just fine. So bookend days of decent weather for your holiday weekend. It's just this Sunday, and a lot of folks are out and about. There's lots of activities going on, not only around the metro, but southern Indiana, good chunk of the Commonwealth for this long holiday weekend. Lots of people out and about camping, and we had reports of problems with a camper or...
Yeah, in north of Litchfield, it was parked at a home, but it was one of the long pull behind campers. It's probably 20 feet, but it was rolled over into the garage of the home in which it was housed at. Jay, I also want to point out LG&E reporting about 34,000 people in the metro without power. So before especially this next line comes in tonight, if you do have power, make sure you charge your devices, because that can be a way of getting information if your power goes out in your home and your TV is unavailable. Also, Bullitt County, about 3,600 without power, 4,300 in Old
Oldham County without power as well. And so we'll continue to monitor that. Total in Kentucky, it's upwards of 61,000. So this has been a line that is knocking down trees and power lines across the area, causing problems.
Yeah, I'm just getting a lot of reports from our viewers now via Facebook that massive trees are down West Butyl right now. We have no power in sections of the metro, as Matt just alluded to. Same thing as you track off to the south. No power in places like E-Town still, Bardstown, having some power outages. So this batch of storms causing some issues, no question about it, on this Sunday early afternoon. Things will be quieting down for a short stint, and then we'll have to watch for regeneration of more big storms late today, more like into the evening hours of tonight. And we could be looking at all hazards again, possibility of strong straight line winds, which is likely the primary hazard again, even for tonight's activity. But, you know, the atmosphere, we've got twisting and turning going on. We've got wind shear, we have directional shear, and when you have that and you have a thunderstorm, that storm can produce, you know, even tornadic weather. We'll have to watch at least the potential for that as we move on into this Sunday evening. But yeah, the highest wind field, as you can see behind me, now pushing off to the east. A lot of that brighter shade of pink you see in Shelbyville and Shelby County near the capital city, Lawrenceburg. It's likely a lot of those winds are aloft right now. I think what we have to concentrate on is along the real heavy rain band, and just ahead of it, that's where you're getting the damaging wind gusts. And those damaging wind gusts, possibility of sticking around any one location for likely 10-15 minutes max, and then that thing will move on through. But it'd be running from the Madison area, getting close to Carrollton and Carroll County, right through sections of Henry County, then down towards the capital city. And along and ahead of that batch of heavy rainfall, those strong storms, narrow as it is, along and just east of it, that's where the wind damage threat is still running quite high, mainly just east and northeast of the metro. Farther east and southeast, that batch has moved out of the viewing area. So we'll clear our northeastern communities, and we'll get you back to regular programming as we move into this Sunday afternoon. But again, stay weather aware throughout this Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Keep it tuned to WLKY if you can, WLKY.com. All of our social platforms, Matt's, myself, Suzanne, Daniels, Mo's, we got you covered with additional threats for strong and severe storms as we move on into late today and also tonight. Matt, good news, Metro out of the woods for now, but again, possibility later on today.
Yep, looks that way, Jay, and it is definitely a good opportunity here to, again, kind of assess a little bit of damage, especially if trees are down. You know, if you have large limbs, they can quite literally weigh thousands of pounds. So make sure that you're being very careful with that. There still may be a few branches hanging up into trees. So as we continue to get some wind gusts later today and tonight, you're going to want to be very, very careful of that. Some of the latest reports, Jay, and I think you might have mentioned this near Charlestown, there's some reports of damage to Hibernia, the New Washington area there, and in the city of Charlestown in the square. Looks like this, this line has been doing, it's been knocking down some trees and power lines and just kind of making a mess of some things as those 60+ mile/hour wind gusts move on through. Some of the latest ground reports, though, especially from the Kentucky Mesonet, which is a source of data that we use. They have throughout the counties in Kentucky, they have weather instruments through Oldham County near Westport, 31 mile/hour gust, closer to 45, 50 into Shelby County at the reporting stations there. So this is still packing a punch, but not quite the 60 mile/hour plus, at least that we were seeing reported back in Louisville at Muhammad Ali International, where we had 63 mile/hour gusts just a little while ago.
Okay, folks, so again, our northeastern communities. What I mean by that, Jefferson County in Indiana, Madison, just east of Hanover now, through Trimble County, Carroll County, and Henry County of Kentucky down towards the capital city, Franklin County. Those are the regions that we still have to watch out for, all right? That's where we have the severe thunderstorm warnings still in effect for the next several minutes. We are out of the woods for now for the metro and the rest of the viewing area. The tornado watch will be chiseled away if it hasn't been so already. Matt, any words on that, on the tornado watch?
You know, I don't think so, Jay. I have a feeling the Weather Service is likely going to let this line get east of their area and then reassess. But I'm with you on that. I think the tornado watch should be starting to get chipped away at over the next. It goes until 4 o'clock this afternoon. I don't see our atmosphere allowing for any more severe weather until then. So I think we'll be looking at that watch eventually going away before 4 o'clock.
Okay, all right, so folks, we're going to just stick with you about another 10 minutes until the top of the hour. That should get all these storms out of here and out of the viewing area altogether. We'll get you back to programming. But again, as Matt talked about, hey, it's going to be a wet Sunday afternoon. There's a little break out in our far western communities. Let me take you back to the radar here, and I'll show you that. There's a bit of a break, but it's not much. Unfortunately, here you go. You can see a little bit of dry time out in Du Bois County, but then those showers and rumbles of thunder really close back in. So it's going to be a wet afternoon. And you know what? I have to be honest. I hope it is a wet afternoon and it carries us into the late afternoon hours with patches of light rain because that's really going to help decrease those severe chances again as we roll into and through tonight. That remains to be seen. We'll be analyzing that here in the Weather Center over the next couple of hours. But Matt, let's hope that is the case. That'll really help out with dropping those chances for severe tonight. Yeah, for sure, Jay. But a couple of more, we don't need any more severe weather because a couple more reports coming in from Clark County Emergency Management. Trees on houses in the 1200 block of New Street and Lindsay Street in Charlestown. Thankfully, no injuries were reported with that. We've also had reports down at Harrison Street in Charlestown. So it looks like the Charleston town area in Clark County perhaps got hit particularly hard with some of the stronger wind gusts. Also getting some indications that the Hardin County area also got hit really hard with trees and power lines down, a few of those trees on homes as well. So if you are traveling for the remainder of today in areas that were hit hard by this, keep in mind it may take some time before especially if any trees are on major roads, you know, you may have some detours to go around. We may have, you know, electric companies will be back out trying to restore power. There's tens of thousands out without power in the metro. So this is going to be kind of a mess of an afternoon, and then we watch it again into the evening ahead. And keep in mind, if you don't have electricity now, they may not be able to get out there with impending severe weather coming this evening. So it might be long durations without power for some. I hear you. And, you know, here's the deal. I mean, why did this line cause so many problems with winds of 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, and at least in a few spots? Just look at your trees, folks. They are full of leaves, a full canopy of leaves. So those big trees just kind of capture the strong winds that are trying to blow through. And unfortunately, they can be knocked over or limbs come down. It's very, very common, as you know, during the summertime season here in the Ohio Valley. And we're getting into that, and that's simply what happened on this Sunday early afternoon. So the line of storms, we're going to kind of reset, give you an update here through Madison, now just east of there, running into far eastern portions of Henry County, as well as sections of Franklin County, and everything you see moving off towards the east rapidly along and just east of that those brighter shades of yellows, oranges, and reds. That's the narrow zone of real high wind. Well, along that and east of there is where the severe threat is still running quite high. Right now on top of Carrollton, Madison, and then down into northeastern portions of Henry County on towards the capital city as well. And this line is pretty much going to be pulling out altogether. Still pinging winds that could be easily 50 to 60 miles per hour within that narrow zone of thunderstorm activity now to the north and east of the metro. We'll get this out of here. Things will quiet down. And the rest of this Sunday afternoon, although on the unsettled side, as you can see with the additional rain off to the west and southwest. We're not expecting widespread severe weather like we had over the past couple of hours. With this little bow echo, I think most of the severe thunderstorm activity will likely be far southern Kentucky, down near the Tennessee-Kentucky state line, and then on into portions of Tennessee this afternoon. With all that activity you see south of Owensboro, that trajectory should take it down towards the Nashville area, and we'll have to watch for tonight. So still some rain out there. We're going to continue to hold on to that rain, and hopefully that rain will continue for quite some time. Not because I want it to rain on your holiday weekend, but it's going to drop those chances for severe as we move into tonight, if that is indeed the case. Matt?
Yeah, Jay, I think if there's a little bit of good news, a lot of, as this line has pushed on off toward the east, we haven't had a lot of reports in our north and eastern communities. Now, the storms have just recently rumbled on through, so that's not to say that there isn't any, but at least the frequency of reports that we had a little bit farther off when this line was to the west, closer to Charlestown, the metro, and back off to the south and west from there, where we've had damage reports out of LaRue, Hardin, Taylor, Grayson, and Breckenridge counties. We're not seeing that as much. So, and I would say this line does look a little bit weaker in scope. When we were looking at some of the winds inside of it, we were no longer looking at 60 close to 70. It was more like 50 close to 60. That is still a very strong wind and can knock down trees and power lines. So we still want to be aware in Carroll County. In fact, right around Carrollton and that I-71 corridor, that's where the worst of the weather is with this particular storm. And just north of you in Madison through Jefferson County, and even a strong storm into Jennings County as well, and right along the Kentucky River, moving in towards Owen County. But Henry County, you're quickly going to be out of the worst of this weather, as well as Trimble County. Same thing for Oldham and Shelby County. It's still raining out there, but the severe weather threat is passing you by off toward the north and east. But continuing to see reports and pictures come in of trees and power lines down across the area. That's why we were on with you throughout this line, moving on through the metro and across the WLKY area, because anytime we see severe and widespread damaging weather, well, we're going to be on the air to get you through it, just like we would if there were tornado warnings. But this is causing quite a bit of damage and power outages across the area. And speaking of those power outages, the LG&E website is still reporting over now 36,000 without power in Jefferson County, 36,381 to be exact, 3,500 in Bullitt County without power, as well as close to 4,400 in Oldham County. Hardin County, about 1,700 KU customers without electricity there. And so you get the idea. We're going to go into this Sunday afternoon with tens of thousands without power and some cleanup to do with the trees and the power lines down. Again, a point of caution, if you are trying to do any cleanup of those trees and power lines, be very, very careful. It might be something better left to the pros, because those trees can be extremely heavy, in fact, more than you might be accustomed to. So let's not do anything. We don't want to cause any injuries after the storms, Jay, and we'll be cautious of perhaps some trees that were weakened in some of those limbs that may come down later tonight with the stronger storms that move in. I think we see a line perhaps very similar to this one coming later tonight. So that's going to be something I think we're going to have to be really wary of over the next couple of hours.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, weakened trees, you know, the fact the ground could be saturated in spots, that could cause additional issues if we get those powerful storms a little bit later on. So there's your big picture. The first batch of severe weather now pushing away from the WLKY viewing area. It's almost out. We'll get it through Jefferson County, Indiana. We'll get it through Carroll County, and then that will be it for this particular severe threat. You can see additional strong and even a couple of severe cells every so often. Madisonville, west of Bowling Green to Hopkinsville. That activity, I just chimed in to the Storms Prediction Center, was reading some of the discussions they're putting out, and they're thinking the same things Matt and I are, in that main severe threat with the western batch should carry farther south on into portions of Tennessee for the afternoon. Above and beyond that for tonight, in other words, we'll have to wait and see. We're going to have to do some analysis and see what's going on, what kind of heating is going on off to the west to get more storms popping. But as of now, again, things are slowly quieting down across the metro and a good chunk of the viewing area. Still going to hold on to high rain chances, obviously, the next several hours on into tonight as well, with additional scattered storms in the forecast. But the severe threat just about over with, at least for now, temporarily anyway, for the WLKY viewing area. Quite a few reports of 60, 65-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Full canopy of leaves on those trees, and it didn't take much to bring them down. Some power outages as well, Matt. Thousands of people without power. Even here in the metro area down into Bullitt County, your number was above 10 grand, is that right?
Yeah, in fact, it's about 36,000 in the metro, a little over 4,000 in Oldham County and 3,000 in Bullitt County.
Okay, so there you go. And, you know, as Matt talked about, with this rain continuing, you know, those guys who are out there working with the power lines, they're going to get your power back as quickly as possible. They're going to be out there in the rain and the whole 9 yards, but yeah, you know, stay patient, because there are a lot of people without power with this first batch of storms that has moved on through. So now here's what we have, the very, very latest. The severe weather running from far northeastern Jefferson County in Indiana right through Carroll County. A very intense storm there with high winds, no question about it, maybe even a little bit of small hail close to the Carrollton area. And then it curves back through Owen County, down through the Lexington vicinity, Richmond, down I-75, and all of that quickly racing off to the east and also the northeast. So, folks, we're going to go ahead. Matt, any last words before we get people back to the program?
Jay, you were talking about analyzing for the evening. I was just looking towards that, too. In the latest models, we start to really turn our attention back to the north and west. 7, 8 o'clock tonight on through sunset and into the evening hours is when still very likely, I think, a second line of storms coming through.
Timing for the metro with that, just give or take an hour or so?
I would say 9.
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock, yeah.
All right, so we're looking at mid-evening where thunderstorm chances, severe thunderstorm chances will start to ramp up again for the metro, earlier off towards the west, little later off to the east. This will be for round number 2, if it does in fact materialize as we move on into this Sunday evening. But for now, the severe threat is pushing away from the WLKY viewing area, the high wind threat. Things are quieting down across our region. It's not to say we're not going to get more rain and rumbles of thunder. There could still be some pretty strong storms in our far southern communities even this afternoon, but a widespread severe threat, I think we're pretty much done for the afternoon. We'll have to reassess, as Matt talked about, what happens tonight, and we'll definitely keep you posted, folks, no question about it. So for Matt, for Suzanne, for Mo, for Daniel, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jay Cardosi. Thank you very much for for letting us keep you and your family safe and informed during this activity. Don't go anywhere. Keep us tuned in, by your mobile device. LKY.com, all of our Facebook and social media platforms. We will definitely keep you posted. Stay weather aware as we move through this Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. Let's get you back to programming. Have a great Sunday afternoon.